Good evening and welcome to the Spirit of Motorsport TV, powered by Podium Vodka. Welcome back. We are so delighted to be going live once again and sharing some fantastic content this evening. I will be joined by the great Roy Moore. Also, we do have a couple other guests. Now, this evening's topic, we're going to be discussing our fantastic competition, TT Through Your Lens. We've been receiving some amazing stills, videos, and narratives to go with every single one of them. And we've been having so much fun going through all of them. So do check out the Facebook page and like them, share them, and enjoy them, because we've been loving every single one of them. So I'm going to invite the great Roy Moore, who's going to be joining me in the studio. Roy, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome. I think the description is a bit over the top, but it's Roy Moore. Yeah, in the middle of what would have been Southern 100 Week. We would have had the completion of Southern 100 Week this. So just one thing we'd like to kind of add is that the weather for TT Week was rubbish. You would have had delays. You would have had setbacks. Whether they would have got racing even underway on, I think, 2 particular days. And the Southern 100 has suffered the same way. Tuesday was wet. Wednesday wasn't much better. They would have got a reasonable afternoon out of it today, but certainly it would have been on damp roads this morning. So all those who are watching from other places, I know it's been recorded and written and emailed and everything, that wish I was there and missing it and all that, but you haven't fortunately missed too much in 2020 weather-wise. But we're guaranteed for 2021. So get those bookings in and we'll see you then.
I'll get doing the sun dance for everyone as well and make sure it comes out shining. So Roy, what would you do if it was Southern 100? What would you normally be doing then if it was running?
Yeah, well, normally it would have been fired up on the Friday night. Boys would have been arriving on Friday to get set up in the majority of competitors for the Southern 100 are campers. And they've got their own field in pre-TT. When they go down there, they come on the Friday because it is practice, and so they're probably activity down there from Thursday. But for the Southern 100, it just gets invaded on the Saturday, Sunday, and then practice on the Monday night. And it's for qualifying spots as well. So they do the usual newcomers laps. They've got to be compulsory done. So they go around and then all the respective classes are let loose. And away you go. You've got practicing on Monday night and Tuesday night. There used to be a couple of races on the Tuesday, but the way the numbers are now swelling, they give them more opportunity and then fire up with racing from 6:30 onwards on Wednesday and then all day on Thursday. So it puts it into a fantastic meeting, and the organisation of the Southern Club is just unbelievably good. They say that it's going to be 6:21 when the practice starts. It is 6:21. I can assure you that the organisation, by people who have been involved in the Southern Club for many years. And again, our kind of basis tonight is photographs. And if you look for any of photographs from the Southern 100, the accessibility for photographs is quite good. You know, the main vantage points, Ballakegan and then through Iron Gate, Ballanorris, Ballabeg hairpin is good. You don't have much kind of look on the back part of the circuit unless you're really keen. But then when you come down into Cross Four Ways, Church Bends, and right down through Stadium Corner and all that, the potential of getting yourself, some terrific photographs is there, and it's a mass start. So, like 40 bikes going into Ballakegan, and anybody could get a photograph of that because all you got to do is kind of press the trigger. But then later on, as the race develops, just have a check it out because they are. The TT is good for photographs, the Classic and the Manx Grand Prix, but down there at the Southern is a little bit special. Three right-hand bends, well, 1, 2, 3 virtual right-hand bends where, in theory, the bikes are going very slow. So it gives even the man with not quite the equipment to get the job done. And some good photographs from Southern Hundreds over the years.
So have you been checking out the competition, Roy? I know you've got your Mountain Memories page. You've got some amazing shots on there. What have you been thinking about the entries we've had so far?
They're very, very good. And they're very good in many respects of the atmosphere that they create. You know, I mean, you only have to go through them, and somebody who's taken all that time to get the programs together. I might have got a few together and you know, put them in a lineup like that. The beer pump down at the Sulby, that'll give many people some memories of headaches after Rosie has served them a few pints through that. It's a pretty dramatic little system. I think it's a 4-cylinder Honda that's been manufactured into a beer pump, and so it's good value as that.
That is bloody fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I'm pretty confident it is the Sulby Glen, because I don't think there's another one anywhere in the world that would be like that. And there's many photographs that come out. It's like when I was born in Park Avenue in 1947, unknown to me, the neighbours next door were called Grey, Grey, as in the colour. And it was only later on that I noticed that the father, if you can call her, Howard Grey, was the same age as one of my brothers, and they would play together and all that. But you'd occasionally get photographs of you playing, which was very unusual in those days. So it'd be early 50s, and photographs you just couldn't afford to do, and they weren't. They had to be set up. You just couldn't go out and get your phone even now and take photographs. They all had to be done. And it was only later on, when, you know, it'd probably be about 7 or 8, that I realized that he was the owner of a place called Joe's Bar. And that was a place in Strand Street in Douglas where virtually every holidaymaker always had their photographs. There was no actual alcohol in Joe's Bar. It was all cardboard cuttings and stuff like that. And it would be like when you went to the Wild West or you went to America and you suddenly became a Cowboys and Indians because you've been set up into a photographic booth in Joe's Bar. But he was a prolific taker of photographs, but he didn't drive. Seems a weird thing, in it. He didn't have a car. So all his photographs in the Alf Gray collection are basically, or the majority of them are from the start, where he would get good photographs of the riders pushing off on a nice sunny night. He never bothered with early morning practice because in the equipment that they had in those days, it just didn't work. You needed sunshine. So a brilliant, lovely, sunny night, and the photographs he had of the boys pushing off from the start. And then he nipped a Governor's Bridge, which again was quite good for the light. I've never got involved in too much in photography, but you know, it's easy now, isn't it? You just point it and press the button and away you go. But Alf Gray collection, yeah, Quarter Bridge and Governor's Bridge in the start. And that's, somebody referred to it earlier on in the night as Ren Cullen.
Yeah.
It's not Cullen, it's Cullen. Cullen, you say. Ren Cullen 3. You come out of Kirkmichael Village and you go into Ren Cullen 1, which is the right-hander. Front wheel comes up in the air. You then push that down. Then you bank it over through a place called Birkin's Bends. And then you're through the left-hander. And then there's this, right where the gate post is a house. And there's a rise in the road. And there's been some terrific photographs taken from there. But if you're out early enough, you can get on the inside. Now, that probably will be an evening practice shot, judging by where the shadows are cast across the
So this is,
road.
I think the entry is Mike Assels, I think. Assels, if I'm
Yeah.
saying your name correctly, Mike. And what I love about this picture, being at the event, you can't describe really. I don't think words can describe it enough how amazing it is being at the TT and experiencing it, feeling it, hearing it, smelling it, everything. But when you can see a shot like this and it tells so many stories, doesn't it? So you've got the guy with his beer who's leaning back as the bike's going past him, and you can tell he can feel the roar of the bike and the speed of the bike, and it looks like he's like, shit, because of the speed. There's so many different stories coming off that picture. I think it's absolutely stunning.
it's a place where you can't stop the bike going light at the front. You know, you say pulling a wheelie, which means that you put yourself in a position where you say, I'll just have a bit of fun here, I'll pull a wheelie, and then away you go. But it's such a kind of a drop in the road. And I've watched there. I went out with my nephew Brian, and we went out. It was a disappointing night, really, because the practice was stopped for some reason. I think it was missed on the mountain. But the first few bikes through were so impressive with Dunlop and McGuinness and the boys. And they just can't keep the front wheel from going up in the air over that little rise. And there's an absolutely classic shot. The fella must have spent hours, many attempts getting it, where he's positioned himself in that driveway where the spectators are. And he's got a picture of John McGuinness well up in the air, obviously. And it's taken from inside there. And he had a split second to do it, because the speed through there is probably knocking on about 120, 130 mile an hour. And then they flick it up a gear when they go over that rise and then drop down. And I just couldn't believe the first time I spectated there how quickly they went round the right-hander at the bottom. There's a little place on the left-hand side. I can't think of the name. Is something Cloudy Lane is the name of it, on the left-hand side. And round about there, they flick it up another gear, and then they take the bottoming out, and it takes you onto a straight called Bishop's Court. And it takes you past the actual Bishop's Court itself. And it's virtually rolling it back once or twice, flat out from there, all the way through to Ballaugh Bridge, through Alpine Cottage, and then the run through Ballacob into Ballaugh Bridge. And the top men are just absolutely on the button all the time. And yeah, good. So you've got to go to Rencullen to spectate. You can't go and say, oh, I'll go there later on the car or anything like that. It's a night's work to go there, to watch, and then to get back home again.
What about this one, Roy?
Well, there's some lovely stories about this. I think it's actually been submitted, but that's his dad. Well, he was competing in what they call the Clubman's TT. And the Clubman's was originated for clubmen, fellas who were members of motorcycle clubs who had standard bikes. That's a Triumph Bonneville or whatever the model would be from that era. And they ran them round the TT course. The dates from the top of my head be early 50s. And it ran for a number of years. And there was some really good fellas who came out of it. Phil Reed came out from a newcomers race called the Snaefell Races. But in the early days, Bob McIntyre and Jeff Duke were in the Clubmans, and certainly their names that you associate later on going. But they ran it over what was the Clips course, where in 1954 they brought back 125 250s and sidecars on this little course where you turned right at the top of St Ninian's Crossroads, and then went out and followed the circuit to Cronknamona, then in the reverse of the TT mountain course to Craignabar, went down by the side of the Craignabar, and then all the back roads which took you into the top of the White Bridge in Onken, down the White Bridge and through Onken Village. And Onken Village was a village, and certainly the Manx Arms pub, which many will be familiar with, was on the opposite side of the road. And then my childhood later on was in Avondale Road, which Mr. Atkinson, I think, is just peeling off into. And the Blue Dragon Cafe was where you used to go and just ogle at all the stuff you couldn't afford, and all the sweets and the ice cream. And there was Quiggins, the painters, were just down the road. And on the right-hand side there of the Blue Dragon was a clothes shop which sold fabrics and dresses and stuff like that. And I don't know whether people are aware of it, but if you look at the lady on the right, her name was Teresa. Now, it's like the old story when you first met her, she was Irish and her name was Teresa, so that wasn't too thing. But there was a fella called Birdie Brew who wound me up by saying her name was Teresa. I said, what's her second name? And he said, Green. Teresa Green, but it must have been something else. Like, it was just that wind up.
Very
there must
good.
be somebody in the vicinity who's got a leg just walking in there, and I think it's captioned 3 legs of man, which is 3 legs of woman. I think it's
A
gone
woman, yeah.
ended under into. You can see it. You might not notice it, but you can see it. And it's
Who is it? It must be one of the kids, isn't it? Because
somebody from the back. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if you look very, very closely, there was a couple worked in the cafe, and I think Teresa Green was the one who got the seat on the outside, and then directly behind her, I think if you look on her right hand shoulder, there's like 2 images. So her foot is kind of hidden behind Teresa's right foot, but her then left foot is kind of projecting out.
Right.
So yeah, it's been much used
Brilliant.
as that one. Yeah, yeah, and
Great.
yeah, that's that kind of brings back. How can you go back like 55 years of your life, and well, more than that, it'll be near 65 years of your life in one kind of photograph, and that was it. Buttons on the TT course, they only did it once. They did it once on the Clips course, and then a few times on the mountain course, and that was it.
So where's that shop in Onken? Is it where the old butchers?
No, the butchers. Who was the butchers
Further
in Onken?
down.
Paddy Mathers, and there was Tommy Horseflies, as Uncle Jack used to call him. Was a laundrette, and Quirks, the bakers, and there was a fish shop directly opposite. And then there's another photograph of bikes on the Clips course where there's a couple of fellas virtually outside the fish shop, and the Co-op, which is directly opposite where the Triumph and I forget the fella's first name, but it's Atkinson his surname is. That Co-op is virtually unchanged, right on the corner opposite the Manx Arms. In fact, I think it's still got the same dog tied up outside. The photograph was taken.
Probably has.
Just the steps going up and everything, and the Manx Arms. Manx Arms, would you believe, has probably witnessed bits of history, because when car racing was on the island, they used to come down Avondale Road and turn right at the Manx Arms and then head back towards the grandstand. Yeah, that's reminiscent, but yeah, it's not crystal sharp, but he would have been probably on the steps of the existing Co-op building in Main Road, Onken.
Fantastic. Great. So we have, Roy, one of our entrants, I'd say one of our guys who have entered the fantastic shots, multiple shots into the competition. Mr. Mike Kenny is going to be joining us, and Mike's going to be sharing some of his great stills that he's entered. Mike, are you there? You're going to be joining us?
I am indeed. Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, welcome, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So you're...
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Roy. How are you?
Not so bad at all, yes, sir. I don't recognise the face, but then that's what people say to me. I recognise the voice, but I don't recognise the face. I thought you'd
certainly recognise your voice. Yeah, the voice of Ramsey Hairpin.
That's it. Yeah, that's our regular haunt. Not in 2020, unfortunately. So you'll have a few free rolls of film to give away that are unused.
That's true. We were there last year. Yeah, at the Debbie Barron incident, where she missed us by about 1.5 meters.
Wow.
Yeah, I know you. It was scary to watch. We were off air, so it was incidental as regards. We had to digest it. And my biggest fear, if they just missed you, we saw it all unfold and then disappear into under the ropes, as it were. There was 2 things that instantly sprung to mind in the split second that everything was taking place. Was I hope they don't get tangled up in the rope, and then if they don't, that they miss everybody, and you were then waiting to see whether their progress would be halted by a tree, or they were unlucky enough to find a gap in the trees to drop down back onto the approach to Ramsey Hairpin. And
yeah, you're right. I mean, she found the tree.
Yeah.
But that drop down to the approach was a good 12, 15 feet.
Very much
that
so.
would have been bad.
Yeah, wouldn't have been good. And then, of course, it all kind of unfolded that there were a few minor injuries, and yeah, it wasn't good. But fortunately enough, we were off air and didn't have to report it, and then just kind of made people aware that there had been an incident here, but it wouldn't be talked about, and I don't think it was.
No.
It was one of those things.
So, Mike, how many years have you been coming to the TT? When did you start visiting?
I was trying to work this out the other day. I mean, my first visit was in 1995, and I think I've been 13 times. Not sure if we should include the foot and bike year, but I went that year anyway. We decided to go on our dirt bikes, had a great time without the racing. But yeah, I think it's 13 TTs I've been to.
Amazing. And the shots that you've been entering, absolutely fantastic. I don't, whether you'd like to share some of the stories. Now, this one is one of our favorites. Mr. David Jeffries at the Craig.
That's right, the late, great David Jeffries. This was in the year 2000, and it's one of the most iconic viewing points on the circuit at the Craig. Short, it's only about 2 miles there to the finish. And David Jeffries was winning the senior by a good 20, 30 seconds at this point. And he was loving it. He was showboating to the crowd. The crowd were loving him. As they come down from Kate's Cottage or Sarah's Cottage, I always get those two mixed up.
Kate's Cottage, yeah.
Kate's Cottage, yeah. So down that straight to the Craig, there's a couple of yumps in the road. So he used that to hoist the front wheel and then just wheelie for a good 100, 200 yards. Put the front down with a nice little chirp from the front tire and then entered into the corner. I had planned this shot. I wanted to get one with the iconic Craig in the background, and I wanted to get one of him on the last lap. So this was the sixth and last lap of the senior. And not only did he come round, knee in the ground, but waving to the crowd as well. They just went wild. They loved it. I haven't photoshopped this, but this was in the good old days of 35mm film. In those days, you took 36 shots on a roll, and you were lucky to get one or two that were good. But it isn't even cropped. This is as it came out of the chemist. And he still managed to do 125 mile an hour, the first 125 mile an hour lap on that last lap.
Wow.
So, I'm really chuffed with that, man.
Fantastic. Great story. And then I hear it may have been made into a painting as well. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we were just walking down Strand Street in Douglas, and you know what it's like. All the shops, they start putting memorabilia in the window. They've got nothing to do with motorcycling, but you'll have Boots the Chemist with a classic racing bike in the window. And we went into a sort of souvenir shop, bric-a-brac shop, and they had some posters. I was just flicking through these A3 size posters, and I spotted this one, and I thought, that's my bloody shot. So someone has made a painting, whether it's been digitized or what, I don't quite know, but someone had made a painting of my photograph and was selling it in the shop. The detail is as in the photograph. I mean, you might have noticed that there's a couple of letters that have fallen off the sign of the Craig. So I think the A's missing from Craig Nabar, and there's a letter missing from the restaurant. But yeah, that was all included. Even behind him, there is a photographer between the bales, crouched down, taking a photograph. That's in the painting as well. The perspective is slightly different. But yeah, first of all, I thought, hang on, that's a bit of a cheek. That's my copyright. But I'm not a pro photographer, so I'm not fussed. My wife said to me, calm down. It's a huge compliment that somebody has taken your photograph and turned it into a painting.
Did you track the painter down?
Yeah, you can see the bottom right-hand corner. He's a Manx man. I can't remember his name. Maybe if you zoom in on that, you might see. But yeah, I think he lives in the Isle of Man.
I know him.
You know him?
Yeah.
You know him?
Yeah. He's a fantastic artist. Wow. Great.
Have a little word with him.
Well, I'll give him a nudge.
Thanks.
Stunning shot though. Absolutely stunning, Mike. Is this Would you say that was up there with one of your favorites from all your visits to the TT?
Yeah, I mean, every TT, something happens where it's so memorable. It's such an iconic venue. It's such an amazing race. It's, there's nothing like it in the world. You always come away with something that is a bit special. But I think that one's probably my favorite. When you announced the competition, I thought, yeah, that's the one I'm going to enter first.
Fantastic. And is this one of yours?
Yeah, that's Joey on the start line. It's in 1998. And if you look closely, you'll see that his wedding finger he's got a bit missing from it. So he had to put the wedding ring on the other hand. But he lost his finger only a few weeks before a crash at Tandragee. And then still came to the Isle of Man. And I think he got a triple that year. 1998, he certainly got the 250. That was quite a famous one. But for him to be racing after quite a horrific injury on his hand, a lot of respect for the man.
Roy, what was it like to see Joey on the bike, see him doing his thing?
Yeah, he was Mike Hailwood, like from the same era. You couldn't pick him out for being. Now, fair comment, when you're talking about David Jeffries, you've just described him as his character on a bike. And he was, kind of larger than life type of character. And certainly doing what he did there. My instant kind of thing was he was still feathering, even though he was kneeled over and shaking and putting his hand up. He's still feathering the front brake. And to be cranked over at that level and still be kind of in charge of it and all that. But he would probably have done a big wheelie down roll the way through to Brandish, and certainly would have done one on Glencrutchery Road. Joey wouldn't have done, and Mike Hailwood wouldn't have done. They were kind of unobtrusive riders. You had to kind of look closely to pick them out. And they did it all on style, knowledge of the course, where to be on particular parts of the course, which didn't demand too much other than you had to go very, very quick. And you had to go through quick one part to get the next part as quick. So you didn't hang your knee out, and you didn't see any photographs of Hailwood and Joey. They're all neat and tidy. And there's many, many others that come into that category as well. But it's lovely to have a variation in caricature in TT riders, really, isn't it? You see them now, they're hanging off, and Hickman is a bit of a hanger off, Dean Harrison, and then watch the footage of them, and certainly they've got to do that to get the speeds that they go around at, and it's a tribute really to them, how they've but then everything has changed. Tire technique and tire manufacturers changed from the old days. Hailwood experimented with triangular tires. Now I don't know what he would have thought of going round in tires without any thread on. That would have been a bit unusual for him. Probably just about 1978 when he came back. Would be about the time that slicks were coming into the vogue, as it were. Lovely shot there at Belaf Bridge. That's tricky to do too. Yeah. So did you do these with a press pass, Mike?
Well, yeah, I'm not a professional photographer, but I managed to blag a press pass. When I first came over to the Isle of Man, I stayed in the homestay scheme. So there was a chap called Pete Devine in Princes Street in Douglas who put me up. And it was the early days of the internet. So he was putting together a website and needed some photographs. But trying to get a digitized image, a JPEG of any photograph in those days was a nightmare. So I'd be going down and getting them developed at, is it Kegas, the chemist?
Kegs,
the chemist, yeah.
Further down in Circular Road, Kegs, the chemist. Well, not Kegs. They were Kegs, the photographers,
right?
But all the chemist shops used to do printing and developing in those early days. There's a story behind that too. My uncle used to go to Ramsey And they used to brag, if you left the film in for the morning, it would be ready for collection at 5:30 that night. And he did a run from, not Kegs, he did it from Doughty's, which was a place in Douglas, where he would nip over the mountain to Ramsey, drop yesterday's films off and pick today's up, and then repeat the journey then. So it's all changed pretty dramatically in that respect.
That's true. In those days, it was all 35mm film. I'd be getting them developed in an hour. The cost was horrendous. You'd be buying the film at £5-6 a roll, another £8 or £9 a roll to get it developed. But Kegs liked one of my photographs of Joey, actually, the 1998 250 photo. And they said, would you mind if we displayed this in our window just to promote our photography and developing? And I said, yeah, no problem at all. But can I have something in exchange? So we negotiated a 50% discount on all the developing for the rest of the TT fortnight.
Very good.
Yeah, just as an aside, Nick Kegg, who was part of that family, was a Manxman who did the round the world yacht race. He built his own boat, and in his early days, he never did road racing, but he was a very, very competitive trials and scrambles man on the island in the mid 50s to early 60s. Another
Fantastic
piece of useless information.
Mike, so have you been photographing the TT ever since you've been visiting, or did you come as a fan first of all and then eventually got into it? Has it always been your thing?
Yeah, I've always had a camera with me, always been photographing. I mean, it's a difficult thing to photograph motorsport, isn't it? There's this convention that the wheels need to be blurred, the background needs to be blurred, nice shallow depth of field, but the image of the fairing and the bike has to be thin shot. So there's certain rules to it, but a lot is luck, being in the right place at the right time. I mean, this one, for example, Lee Johnson, that was in 2018. But just the angle of the helicopter coming round the corner at the same time, being so low. This
Tremendous.
was the TV helicopter. I mean, that's just pure luck, that being in the right place at the right time. This is Lee on his 600, and this was taken in 2018 when it was so hot. We were watching at the bungalow in t-shirt. I mean, that is unheard of. But I brought this photograph, I printed it out, and found Lee in the pits last year and asked him to sign it. And he was just so lovely. He was such a nice guy. Brought his family over, said, have a look at this. Isn't this a fantastic shot? Spent ages looking at it and signed it for me. But he's so little. I mean,
he's fun size, Mike.
I had a photograph taken of me with him when he was signing my photograph, and I looked like Shrek beside him. He's so small.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, nice to see that he went on and got the win last year in 2019. Although the race was cut short. We were watching it from Kirkmichael. And it got reduced to the 2 laps, but got his first TT win, which was nice to see.
And where's your favourite spot to watch it, Mike?
I think bottom of Bagaro. We actually rented the house a field away from the bottom of Bagaro, so it was obvious first place to watch from. Walked across the field, got into that spot, but they come down there at must be 5th gear, 160 mile an hour, and so close to you. You're standing. You've got the fence. You've got the white line marking the side of the road, maybe a foot away, and they come down between that white line and the fence, so close. So it's almost impossible to see the numbers as they come past, and you feel it. You feel it in your chest as the bike goes past, and then there's that little yump as they drop it into the left-hander, just missing that cottage by inches. And there was another photograph on there I've got of Michael Dunlop, which looks like there's a lot of dust coming off the road, but it's actually him scraping the fairing on the pattern. The compression is so much that he's actually touching the fairing, scraping out with all the white dust coming off that. We met a chap called Sam Mosley there, who's going to be one to watch for at the TT. He's done the Manx last year. He's going to be quick. He's going to be good. We sort of befriended him, become mates with him, and he's racing in the 600 class. He's done the Southern a few times and moving on to the Manx and then TT. That's another one to watch, I think, in my opinion. That's Joey Thompson. Parliament Square got his braking point a little bit wrong and went into the bales. But he was absolutely fine, got up, walked away and rode on. But I think him and Davey Todd, certainly two to watch for the future up and coming riders.
There's another one that emerged in the Classic and then moved on to the Manx Grand Prix called Charles Hind.
Yeah,
he is going to be up there amongst it as well. Young lad, I think he's only about 18 or 19, and just rode 250 two-strokes and can jump onto anything and be quick as well. And I think he would be one to watch. It would have been very interesting to see how they would have gone on. Just going back to you talking about the bottom of Bagarrow, we had a lovely conversation with Ben and Tom Burchill's dad, and he used to, for about 10 or 12 years, used to marshal at the bottom of Bagarrow, and the farm just up there is called Ballakilya Clew, and they had a field up there, and Ben Burchill, the sidecar driver and the fastest man ever around the TT mountain course on an outfit, he came to the TT when he was 6 months old and was looked after at the bottom of Bagarrow and came back and built up, so that when he was a young fella, he was watching and said, I'm going to do this one day. And look what happened to him. He went on to be quite quick as well.
Brilliant. Yeah. Great. So, Mike, you're going to be back with us 2021?
Yeah, that's the plan. We weren't going to go this year. We were actually supposed to be in Skerries this week. We chose to give the TT a miss for this year, and we were going to go to Skerries, but that didn't happen. So yeah, the plan is to get back to the TT 2021 for sure.
And hopefully enjoying your VIP pass when you win the competition.
That would be wonderful, yeah.
Good luck to anybody who's got to judge it.
Yeah. Hello, Roy.
There is quite a number of very impressive photographs. We have done it in the past, and my cousin, who you might recall, was a pretty well-known name amongst TT commentators, Jeff Cannell, and he always was a keen photographer. His mother actually worked for a firm in Douglas called Newbies, who were photographers. And he knew all the ins and outs of where you could go at certain times of the day, and the light would be better and this, that, and the other. And there's numerous photographers on the island who are quite up with the pace as well of trying to find new spots. And we did a judging for a competition through one of the local engineering firms called Doughty's Engineering, who had a photographic club amongst them. And that got pretty competitive, I can assure you. But some of the stuff that you had to judge, Jeff, I just left it to Jeff to kind of go through the technical aspects. And I looked at them and said, that's a nice photograph. That's good. And then, it was tough going. You weren't too popular when some people, in some people's eyes at the end of the night, but it was all good fun and they all took it in good part.
Do you shoot anything else, Mike, or do you just focus on the TT or road racing?
Yeah, motorcycle racing is probably right up there. I'll have the camera with me and shoot anything else that's going on. But yeah, particularly enjoy the motorcycle racing.
Great. Brilliant. Well, thank you for joining us, Mike. Really appreciate your time. Best of luck with the competition. I know we did have Grant was going to join us, but he's been having some technical issues. So I think Roy and I are just going to run through some of the other entries. So, Mike, I really wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for everything that you've entered so far. Keep them coming.
Thank you.
Take care, Mike. Thanks.
All the best.
So, Roy, I want to, just before we went on air, you shared an amazing story about pre-developing in the TT. So I think you referred back to the 30s and what they used to do with some of the shots that they wanted to develop. I would love you to share that story with everyone.
Yeah, well, we did have it on. I don't know whether anybody's been through Roy Moore's Mountain Memories, but when we were down at Quarterbridge doing a bit of yapping, and it's a true story. In the old days where they had like they had terrific photographers. There was one fella called Bill Salmond, and he was a local man. But when the maroon got fired at 11 o'clock and the race started, it might seem daft. It's like everything else. As life overtakes you, it becomes a matter of fact that you could take a photograph at the start line and do it here, there, and everywhere. But the national press were big time on the TT and had to cover it. So up on the TT grandstand, the centre portion of that grandstand was dedicated to people writing up the race. They were cream-coloured little kind of writing desks, and all the local press and all the English press and everybody who'd come from many parts of the world as well to write it up were there. But then they came to the situation as to how would they get a photograph of the winner in relation to getting it in tomorrow's publication, bearing in mind that Mike has just said that he'd done a lot of his on film, and there's a time period involved in doing it on film. But in the olden days, in the days of Jimmy Guthrie and all the boys and Harold Daniel and all the top men at the time, Stanley Woods, when they started off, they were at different numbers. They weren't seeded like they are now. So you said to yourself, well, how on earth do we get a photograph of the winner? 7 laps, so there was 2.5 hours involved in the race. So what they did, and you just bear me out, because if you look at some of the old photographs, you'll see that the majority are on either Bray Hill or Quarterbridge. And Quarterbridge was a terrific spot because it was a good corner. And certainly they'd made note of those who could possibly be in contention, meaning your Stanley Woods and your Jimmy Guthries and your Simpsons and all the top men. So what they did, they positioned their photographer, and this was not just one photographer, this was the majority of the English press, and they would take the chosen men through Quarterbridge. They would again give the plates as they were, because they didn't have rolls of film or anything like that. Majority of stuff was done through a camera like a dustbin with an image kind of thing on it. They would then, if it was film, well, they would give it then to a runner who was positioned on the new Castletown Road, just on the other side. And what he would do, he would then pick that up, and then he would zoom off to the airport at Ronaldsway. No road restriction there. You could get to Ronaldsway Airport. They would have timed it so that he would have taken, say, 11 o'clock. There would be a flight going out at, say, 1 o'clock. And on that flight would be whatever was required to produce photographs. That would be flown to Manchester or wherever the destination was. It would be unloaded. It would then be sent to the paper's headquarters, where they would then develop and print all those photographs. The race would be going on at that time, and then they were guaranteed, or more or less guaranteed, that when the winner was declared, that they had a photograph of him. And look at it, and look at all the kind of images that you see, and the majority of times that photograph was at Quarterbridge. So they were guaranteeing that they would have an image to go with the story being written at the grandstand. They would probably have to get a system where they would then dispense that story by telephone to the newspapers, who would then put it into the old linotype print, and it would come out in the next day's edition. And Pictured at Quarterbridge was the winner of yesterday's senior TT, Harold Daniel or whoever it might be, Stanley Woods. And it was the only way they could guarantee it. Seems daft now when you can just get a camera and send it from the camera to wherever you have to go. but it wasn't always like that, and that's a part of TT history, which, yeah, we've mentioned that story quite a few times, but whether people are interested or not, or they say, yeah, that's interesting, I didn't expect that, but just check the number of photographs. Bray Hill, Bill Salmon there with a, as I say, a camera that was probably about that big, and getting the image in, and absolutely faultless photographs. The images Mick has been talking about there, about stopping spokes and everything like that. They didn't have shutter speeds or anything like that. They had a camera, and it was their duty as a cameraman to get photographs of the TT. Terrific.
I think we had a great black and white shot earlier, didn't we? And that's where the story came out. Was that a quarter bridge? Oh, look at this.
Yeah, that's bottom of Bray Hill on the right-hand side. The Welwyn Garvan City stores in the background. That's a good one there. It's kind of that's one, with the grandstands and the very bottom, and the roads being that dodgy that with 7 laps the bike's going down and dropping a bit of oil here, there, and everywhere. There's a kind of distinct line for the 37 3/4 miles of the TT mountain course where the bikes have got that line set up, and those grandstands there. They had a bit of an incident a few years back with a similar area, but certainly Portishead Avenue there, and then further back up Highview Road, and then always popular is the place on the right. And again, going back all those years, traffic lights at the bottom of Bray Hill.
Yeah.
So they're not new.
Yeah.
They're not new. They've been used before. And there's that one around. No, that's the bottom of Bray Hill there, and that's the old policeman was always on duty. And this would be a mass start, so it would either have to be a 125 or 250. That looks like Fergus Anderson at the front, so it's he on the Guzzy. So that would probably be a 250 mass start from a long time ago. And those vantage points that you see on the right hand side, they're as packed then as they are now. But certainly the left hand side, as we look at the photograph, the right hand side, as you go down Bray Hill, due to one or two things that have happened, that is not now the case. I don't think you're allowed to spectate there. So that again affects people who want to take photographs. There's been many stories that have been related about photographers going out on the course, and the marshals have seen this fella coming with his camera, and he's saying, I'm going to take a few photographs. Where can I go? Well, you're not allowed on the course, but position yourself and we'll give you a recommendation. And they've gone to somewhere where they think is quite safe. And the next minute, the first few come through, and it doesn't take them long before they say, I'm not having any of this, as they head towards them about 130 mile an hour. Like that photograph that you just showed at Ren Coolen. It's the same thing there. The fella's standing back with his pint. Just can't believe. And he wouldn't have been one of the early runners, Alan Bonner. Sadly, Alan lost his life later on, I think, that week, but certainly remembered with affection. But certainly that is the case as well. There's not as many opportunities now to get positioned to take photographs, and if you do get one special one, well, it's very, very well earned if you're just doing it as an ordinary spectator.
I remember the year Connor had his big off. He was pushing it so hard through Crosby. I was just after the Crosby pub on the left-hand side. In the field, there's like a farm there.
There is,
on the bush, and I was trying to get the best shot, like you say. And there was so much going on that day, wasn't there? It was insane. But he was pushing it so hard. I remember him coming over the hill, and he did a little wheelie, and he was pushing it so hard he was coming directly for me, and I was like,
no.
I need to go now. I'm not as brave as I thought I was.
They've picked out a few new ones. Sarah's Cottage has suddenly become a very good focal point and it's good spot to watch them going through there. That's part of the of Greenlight's presentation as well, of the TT video, and it's a really good one, because it's part of the original TT course, and from 1907 to 1910. So you've got a bit of history there, and that's one that's come to light. but there's not many photographs that you don't recognize as where is it, unless it's really heavily disguised, or somebody knows you're going to struggle a bit and then just kind of present it to you and say, where's that then, Royster? Having a clue, you see. So we've had a few on the site, and there's been one advantage your man has mentioned before about he would be delighted that somebody'd taken a painting of his photograph. But then by the same token, some people are very, very protective of their photographs. That's mine. And the keg collection, and there's more curtains. They've done all different presentations and all that. And I don't know whether copyright stands the test of time, but certainly the photographs that we've had the privilege to see, not only on here, but certainly through the Roymore Barry Wood site, has been a revelation, because they have not shared them. They've not dispensed them around the world. They're quite happy to look at them and admire them and compliment the people who have taken them, but they don't share them, which is a big thing in this day and age, not only for TT photography, but if you've got a special photograph, you feel as though it's special to you and you want people to see it, but you don't want people to do 5,000 copies and dispense it here, there and everywhere. So it's a very delicate subject, very delicate subject.
So moving forward, when it comes to the judging, Roy, what would you be looking for because it's going to be defined, going to be broken down to the top 20, I believe, and then it's going to be over to you. What would you be looking for to...
Bit of good news for me.
What would you be looking for?
George Formby would say, "Oh, you'll have me off."
How? Because we want the narrative. So everyone that's entering the shots, the videos, is sharing the narrative that comes with each one of them, and some of the journeys are incredible that they're taking us on. What are you really looking for? What are the key factors for the entries?
Yeah, it's capturing the emotion of the moment, really, isn't it? A photograph is a moment. You know, what does Whitney Houston say? One moment in time.
Yeah, there's a song in there.
And yeah, there's a song and title in there somewhere. Like, so it's the impact of the photograph, and then there's the history of it. You know, I mean, that one of David Jeffries, it's the Cregna Bar, but those who remember it as being as the Keppel Hotel. Going back years, and then Tate's. It was actually Tate's cottage, not Kate's, and it was one of the chaps from the BBC who transferred it from Tate's to Kate's, and it stuck. And then you've got clever photography as well, which is probably well beyond me in relation to how they do it. I've seen golfers with swings from the top to the bottom and taking it back and going down through and round the other side, and whether that's better than, you know, a nice shot, the technical aspect has got to come into it. And I'm a put it on automatic and let it rock type of person. So anybody who's been clever might not get the backing that they deserve, really, to be fair, in relation to that. But yeah, we'll do our best anyway, now that I've been presented with that information.
It's the emotion and the story that comes with it, though. It's what the TT's hugely about. People come back in their thousands to experience the emotion that comes with the whole event as a spectator, as a rider, and capturing that in a shot, in a still, or even in a short video.
Yeah, it's just looking through at some of the ones there, you know, it looks like Jock Taylor at Balaf, and yeah, that's clever. That's clever, because is it? I'm not quite sure. To put my glasses on, it looks as though it is, with railings. No, it's not actually. I don't think that's not Balaf Bridge. That would be one that would catch you out a little bit. Oh no, it is Balaf Bridge, because it's got the railings in the background. Now that's been Jock Taylor's Balaf. Well, they've told me, but I did tell you before. And 81. So again, you would be on film in those days, and as Mick quite rightly says, it costs you an arm and a leg to get photographs, and you wonder why, if you're of a certain age, that there's not too many in the family album. But if it was a priority between getting food on the table or having a photograph of yourself, food on the table or a packet of fags always won in relation to photography. That's a nice shot there. See, that captures the imagination. The one with the group of riders coming into the bungalow. You know, that sums up a TT shot, really, doesn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What would that be? That would be a classic if they're on that type of numbers. I would think might even been a Grand Prix
Classic
shot
TT.
on it. Classic TT, it says, is it?
Yeah, classic TT.
The
Neil
noise,
Russell.
the noise was incredible. Yeah, it would be, because they would all be either Honda Twins or RC30s by the look of it, and maybe a few of the big 4 cylinders there, because the classics would be practicing. I think that would be a practice shot if I had to take a chance on it. Although the numbers are all kind of located that they could have been, wouldn't it? Yeah, that could have been a race shot as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming into the bungalow, yeah. And then if I look at that from a Manx point of view, you know that beyond them, down in the valley, is the Snaefell mines, and the big Snaefell mine disaster, where the Laxey wheel was built to pump the water from the mine, and that was the mine that was in question. So Connor Cummins going over the veranda down into the area where the Snaefell mines were, Laxey wheel, the tramway, all that comes into a shot which, if you're looking at, you're kind of thinking beyond the bikes. And yeah, it's good. But that could have been a race. Could be a race shot where 1 or 2 have caught up with the others. Looks like the 20s are there, aren't they? So you've got 34.
I wonder if it says in the description of the
yeah, they're all on white plates, aren't they? Yeah.
It says capture because oh no, it doesn't. No.
No, might have been a practice. Possibly could have been a race, because you got 31, 32, and there's that 31 at the back, and then 34 looks the man on a mission coming around the outside. So he would be the highest number amongst that lot, and he looks as though he's pretty determined. He's going to get past the people in front of him. So yeah, all good
another
stuff.
great shot.
Yeah,
wonderful. Well, thank you, Roy. It's been an absolute pleasure once again to listen to your stories, your memories of the TT, your tales of the TT, and we look forward to having you back next Friday, 17th.
Yeah, I think there's something else on the agenda for that. Yeah, which it's just the old story, isn't it? If I wasn't here, I'd be somewhere else. But at the same time, with this newfound responsibility, I think I'll just go down and yeah, that'll be it.
So remember, just to remind everybody, the competition is open till Friday, the 17th of July on midnight. And remember, if you do win, you get a VIP race experience like no other that money can't buy for 2 at the TT in 2021. So bring us your entries, send your stills, your videos, and make sure you include the narrative that comes with every single entry. And you can enter as many times as you like as well. So remember that. All right, Roy, thank you so much once again. It was wonderful to see you. I look forward to you joining us again in the studio next Friday on the 17th, 7 p.m.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have any questions, if you're watching back the replay, feel free to fire them at us and we'll happily answer them back on the live next week. So thank you for joining us on the Spirit of Motorsport TV, powered by Podium Vodka.